Longines watch. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Longines sounds like long jeans. Like, I got me some long jeans. Anyway, it's a Longines watch. I think it's Swiss. Longines is Swiss. I'm not much about watch history. I should really study more, but I don't. So, anyways, it's got one hand missing, so I got to open this thing up a little bit. So I just get my jobby-do in here, and I crack this open like so. And there I've got the hand here, so I've got to remove that hand. And to remove the hand carefully, what I need to do is put this little piece of paper here, like that, and then I get my hand removers, and I just basically jam them underneath the hand, like so. And then carefully wedge that up like that, and then I'll take off the second hand. And just to be, so I have good habits here, put this part over here. And just to be smart about it, I also want to do the exact same thing with this little piece of paper, and that just protects the face from being damaged by these little miniature claws. So usually I use I sometimes can use a screwdriver to take the hands off. So, and I don't want to break the pivot on the end of the fourth wheel here, because I did that the other day on a wall thumb, and I was all ready to finish the whole job, and I broke the pivot, and I was like, oh, what did you do that for? And it was like, pissed me off. So this is a nice little watch I picked up, and again, it's a mainspring problem. So I can't remember whether I cleaned this yet, but I just want to sort of wedge this in here. And you got to be patient. You put the knife in here. As a watch. This is what is it? Who makes this? I'm not sure. Probably made in China. Anyway, you wedge it in like this, and you just either rock it back and forth or move it sideways until it gets in deep enough. Don't try to do it fast. But the movement's pretty good. It seems to be in good working order. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see it. So that's the movement there, and the balance is working, and if I were to wind this up right now, that balance would turn. But that's not going to help me, because I could wind it up and just show you just a couple lines here, and then I'll just take the pressure of it by relieving it here. So I'll just wind it up a few times, and then I'll just do this, and you'll see that the movement is in fact working. It's fairly strong. I just wound that one like half a wind there, so that doesn't really count. So it's a pretty strong movement. I don't know how many joules it has. Let me have a look here closer. So it is 15 joules, and there's 3 adjustments. So it says 15 joules, and there's 3 adjustments. And that's written right on the watch. It's written right over here. Right here. So 15 joules, 3 adjustments. So that's not too bad, I guess. I'm not sure for these type watches what value that is, but Longines watches are pretty high value. The case itself is it's a beautiful case. It's 14 karat white gold, so you can see that it's gold filled, which means it's pressed. So gold on the top, gold on the bottom, and some other kind of metal in the middle, but it's pressed in there. But it's 14 karat, so it's pretty high end, I think. So anyway, I'm going to set this thing up here and just show you me fumbling around for now. I don't mind showing you how I fumble when I do this, because if you're going to figure out how to fix watches, you might as well learn from the fumbling of others, right? So I got a cold today, so I apologize if every now and then I go like this and cough. So this is it here. So the next thing I got to do is just remove the case screws. Now I got my camera the wires for my camera are kind of there, so I might move my camera a little bit here. So let me just make sure I'm not too far off. No, that's good there. Okay. I just picked the proper screwdriver here to remove the case screws, and the movement should drop out. Now, I could put this on a square movement holder, but I don't think I need to. So, actually, I should let this thing down first. Take the pressure off of it. You can do this with a toothpick, because sometimes when you use a screwdriver, it might scratch the movement, but in this case here, I'm going to zoom in and just show you how I let this thing down. So I'll just zoom into here, and then put a little bit of pressure on the winding stem, like that, and then with your screwdriver, very carefully, this is a ratchet, or the, what's it called? I'm trying to remember the names of things today, and I got a cold, so I'm tired. This is a click spring, so you just do that, and then with your thumb, just let the main spring wind down a bit, and that's pretty much wound down, and that stops it there. So now I've got it in a situation where I can just basically, I don't want this watch, either the movement, to fall right up the center once I relieve it. So I'm just measuring it. I'm just going to zoom out again because you can't see the darn thing. But this movement holder, right, is a little bit too big, and when I undo the screws, then the face and the whole movement could drop right down the center. So I want a holder that's a little bit smaller, like this one here maybe. And just look at that from that angle here, and I think that's probably pretty good. And then I gotta put that on like this. Hopefully you appreciate these videos. I fixed a guy's watch there a little while ago, and I had a real problem with it. It wouldn't, basically it would work when it's facing upward, if the face is up, but when the face was down, the thing would stop. And I went on the watch blogs, and I asked some guys, like I think I asked Old Hippie and some other guys that I relied on over the years, and they said, they asked me about all kinds of stuff, but it turned out that the stupid leaf spring was missing for the cannon pinion, so it was a pretty simple problem. And all I had to do was put a leaf spring in there, and this thing stumped the crap out of me. Like I was totally stumped, and I couldn't figure out why it ran one way and not the other. And the biggest problem was I made the balance spring for it, or sorry, I made the balance staff for it with one of my lathes, and I was pretty, like, I did a good job making the balance staff, but I was thinking maybe it was the balance staff that was broken. I got to pull this out first before I get the stem out, and there's a little screw right there that you got to undo. Let me see if I need to focus this camera a little better here so you can see it a little better. Hang on. Yeah, because it's up a little bit. So, but there's a little screw. Let me just zoom in here. So I got ADD. So this little screw here, you have to loosen it to pull the stem out. So first thing you do is you pull out the stem to winding position, and you get the itsy bitsy screwdriver, right? Because it's the size of the watch here. Then you loosen this little screw here. You'll see this on European watches, but the Walthams and those type watches don't have this. And then you put the screw into the hole, into the wrong size. Put the screw into this screw here, and what this does is take a plate and grab the stem. So I'm going to see if I can make sure the screw is in the slot, and I turn it a bit like that, and this should take the stem out. Ooh, look at that, stem is removed. So that worked. I'm going to back up a bit here so you don't get all confused. So that's removing the stem, so that worked pretty well. And I just collect all the parts and put them in the back of the watch case here so I don't lose it. And try not to use the front of the watch case here. Oh, another thing is I got to glue the crystal back on this watch too because it was loose before. So as you can see, I just lift this up and the whole thing is revealed. It's revealed. Oh my goodness. So that's the revelation. I wonder if that's a word. Revelation's a word. I'm going to do it revealing something, I hope. Anyway, so it's revealed. So, and just so I don't lose this screw here, this little tiny screw, I'm going to screw it back in. I'm going to watch my shading here for these videos, because if I get the wrong shading, you can't see a darn thing. But I'm going to screw the stem holding screw back in, just so I don't lose it, which is a great idea. And so that's back in place, and you can even see it on the edge there. If you look at all these mechanisms here, what you're doing is just, by screwing this in, you're just lowering this, not sure what it's, like a lever or something, but it lowers it, and it catches the inside of the stem here, the edge of the stem, sort of goes out, in and out, and this little part here gets caught with that here, which keeps the stem in place. So you're not going to get any super technical explanations from me today, I'm afraid. So I'm going to do my best with the occasional cough. Everybody has this cold, by the way. So I'm going to replace the mainspring. So first thing I'm going to do is take apart some wheels here. For this job, I don't think I want to touch any of this stuff. I'm just going to try looking at the mainspring and seeing what's wrong with the thing, because it's, as I said before, when I wind it all the way up, it just slips, which makes no sense at all. So I hold the ratchet down like this, and then the lighting is kind of poopy here, but I'm just doing my best. I don't want to overlight it here, because then it becomes a crappy video and you can't see anything. So I could get closer and then go down more, but anyway. So I just put my screwdriver in here, and then hopefully it turns the right way, and it does. So that is the wheel for the mainspring on the top. And I try to group the parts, like I said earlier, so I don't have any issues. I just slide that off nice and easy, and then grab that, put that where the screw is. And this is because I don't want to lose anything. So then I take the ratchet wheel off. Sometimes these screw a different way, but I'm not sure with this one. I'm just going to try to turn it here. No, I think it's tightening it. I may have to switch screwdrivers. No, there we go. So, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty doesn't work on these, because this ratchet wheel usually goes the other way. And that is to prevent the screw from unscrewing itself. So I'm just going to take this off, and I think is there any more stuff here? I don't think there is. That's pretty much it. And look in the back here, and yeah, that pops out. So this little piece here goes inside this here. So, like so. That just goes in like that. And you don't want to lose any of these parts, or you'll be screwed. Screwed, I tell you. So there we go. So now that's off. And then I'm just going to take the plate off here. I think I can do that leaving everything in place, because I just want to see if when I fix this mainspring problem, if it fixes the watch, I'm good. And then all I got to do is clean it then, which is the easy part actually. These plates all look pretty loose, because I think what I did before was, I believe I cleaned this one already. Right? I can't remember. I gotta go check my notes. Because what I did before is I undid everything, cleaned it, and then when I went to go wind it up, I realized that the mainspring had issues. So there we go. I put the screws aside here, and I'm gonna basically, the screws are like that. Basically take this plate off now. And I can still, so what I do here is that I don't need to take the face off to take the plate off. So I just put my screwdriver in here on the edge and just wedge it in like that. I'm hoping that there's nothing there that I don't have to remove. No, that's all working pretty good. I try to keep the movement in picture, as they say in the movie industry. Obviously I'm not in the movie industry, but I'm doing my best. Try to make these watchmaking videos entertaining. So my wife has this picture that she's shown me before, and it's a picture of a dog, effectively. Let me get that picture for you. It's pretty funny. I have my phone with me here. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and get my phone, because I have to show you that picture. It's pretty darn funny. And basically she says, this is how I feel when you talk about watchmaking. So I'm going to go downstairs in a few seconds and get that video for you. So there's the watch, or the pocket watch sans plate. That's French for without a plate. And I just slide this out like that. Right? So there I have the mainspring. And now we're going to go examine this mainspring and see what the problem is. I'll be back in a second, so I want to show you that picture of the dog. I'm not sure if this does it justice, but this is what my wife says she feels like when I talk to her about watch repair. And it's the dog just looking pretty stupid with his mouth open, like, I'm not too interested in what you're saying. So here is the mainspring for this Longines watch, and I'm going to look at it, turn it around, and guess what? It doesn't have a plate in the back of the mainspring. Now that was a surprise to me. So I'm like, holy crap, no plate. That is weird. So when you basically wind this thing, you're winding it this way, right? You're winding it. This is going counterclockwise, tightening the spring this way, so the spring is pulling this way, right? And I think that there's a notch. I know there's a notch actually right there, and I can tell because the notch, if I look on this side, I can see, I'll just try to get the right angle here, I can see the notch right there. So for some reason that notch either is not big enough or it isn't grabbing the spring. So I'm going to have to take this spring out, I think, and because this notch it's slipping. So when it gets to fully wound, it slips. Now one thing I don't know is it supposed to slip so you don't overwind the watch? And someone's going to say, look, there's no such thing as overwinding a watch. Well, maybe there isn't, but I think that notch, I might just be able to punch that notch just a tad to move it out a bit so it catches the mainspring. Or the other alternative here is to take out the mainspring, have a look at this part of the spring here, and just bend this part out a bit so it puts pressure on that notch, and that way when I wind it up it doesn't go apart. But either way, I think I'm going to take this mainspring out and see what happens. So let me back this out a bit and show you my mainspring taking out problems I'm going to have. I'm probably sure going to screw this up. First thing I want to do though is take a picture with my cell phone, and that way I can tell the direction of the mainspring when I go put it back, and I can actually see that I'm going to make sure that the center arbor here is not screwed up. So this, I believe, should pop down if I press on this, right? With any luck, and we'll see what happens here. I'm not sure what's going to happen here at all. Doesn't look like it's doing anything. I could also screw this whole thing up. It also looks like there's some tool that, if I look at these two holes here, you zoom in again, it looks like I have to have some kind of a special tool that you put in here and here to turn this thing. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So if I grab this mainspring with my tweezers on the outside and turn it, will it turn? Let me see. Yeah, it does turn. So the mainspring does turn. And maybe I can grab it with a better set of tweezers and turn it all the way until it slips. Just hang on a second until I try this. So I've decided on plan D. And plan D is I take a screwdriver and I put the screwdriver blade in where the tab is, right, that holds it like that. And I grab my trusty hammer, right, and I pound the crap out of it. Actually, that's not what I'm going to do. So I grab my trusty hammer, and I got to make sure I don't bend anything. So what I want to do is, I don't want to put this down, because if I put this down, there's a chance that I'm going to bend the barrel. So I can see, when I zoom in really close, I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but I can see that there's a space right where the tab is. So if the tab is right here, like that, and if I just push that, or hit that tab just a bit, it's going to move that tab down, because everything else seems to be intact, and there's a little tiny space between that tab and the rest of the mainspring. So I might be able to resolve the issue by tapping on the end of this, right? I should have finger cocks on here, really, right? But I'm not gonna. I'll probably end up cleaning this thing after. I just want to see if I can get it working, right? There I go, right there. So you can see that. I'm going to zoom out just a bit so you can see what's going on, because I don't want to do this without, it doesn't make any sense for you not to see this. So I can see, I'm going to look really close again and see what I got. And yeah, tab. Everything else is good here, so that all should be catching without a problem. And then this tab might have lifted up just a bit. Not super sure, but I think if I just tap that a bit, tap the tab as they say, try to get my fingers out of the way. There we go. And tap that ever so slightly. Let me look in there. That is brass, so that is going to move. Okay, that is right down now. So that tab is way down. So that looks like it's moved the tab down, which I think might solve the problem. And so I'm going to just reassemble this puppy dog. And I'm just putting my screwdriver back right now. I know that's exciting for you, but this could do the job. As opposed to the adventure of taking out the mainspring and everything else, because everything else looks fine. I know when I wind it, it actually works fairly well, so it works, and then it slips at the end of about 10 winds, I think. So that's pretty good there. And just to be a good boy, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the top. Just a lube it a bit. Well, this thing probably hasn't had oil in a million years, so I'm going to oil the darn thing just a bit. You back out a bit here. a little bit running by my side. And I'm going to put a semi-light oil in here. I can remember the name of it, but it's the one I typically put on the wheels that are number 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3 wheels on the watch. I don't put this oil on the 4th wheel or the escapement or whatever. And plus I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the arbor here as it spins inside the movement. So give it a little bit of spinning motion. And then you bring this back here, and I will just place this back into the watch carefully. I should clean this out just a bit because I want to be a good boy here. So I just want to see if it works, or like I told you, because if I do a full cleaning on it, you don't need to see a full cleaning if you know how to clean a watch. You don't need to see this, but if I take a little Rodico and just rub into here, it gets rid of some of the dirt from its evil past. Just get the top here, and then I am going to. It's funny when you do a video, you're basically telling everybody what you're going to do, and then you do it. So the question is, why don't you just do it and stop telling people what you're going to do? Why don't you do that? So there we go. And then I'm going to put the plate back on, and I'll put the oil back on later, a little bit of oil back on later. So the plate goes on kind of like this. And again, it's, as you know, if you've ever done videos for YouTube or whatever, doing the video while you're doing the work is sometimes challenging. And I'm not sure if that's on or not, sort of semi-on. There we go. I think that's on. I'm going to check all the edges to make sure it's flat in there. And this is the perfect size movement holder, by the way. So I'm gonna, if I put this whole thing back together again, and I've failed miserably, I'm gonna show you, because part of watchmaking, or watch repair, I guess I'm watchmaking when I make a new balance staff, and I'm watch repairing when I fix things, but part of watch repair is dealing with failure. The cool thing about this hobby is that you get these little ta-das that happen quite often, and you're able to, I'm not sure what everybody does out there in the world of YouTube, but I'm sure there's professionals and engineers and carpenters and lawyers and plumbers and all kinds of people out there. And in life, sometimes your job won't give you immediate satisfaction because you're on long projects or what have you, where you're 10 years working on something, and then finally 10 years later you get it finished. And that kind of work is good work. and it pays the bills and everything. But you don't get this immediate satisfaction, which is kind of cool. So in doing watch repair, it's highly technical, so if you have any nerd tendencies, this is good work for your average nerd person, to basically learn how to fix a watch. Let me tighten these down a bit more than they were tightened before. There we go. And and learn how to fix a watch is kind of, you have to learn everything about watch repair, and then you have to learn, lube the ratchets here too, but anyway, you have to learn about how to repair a watch. And then as you get deeper into it, I've had people say, well, how did you start learning how to fix watches? Well, I started off with some Seiko automatic diving watches that friends of mine gave me, and I just basically said, hey, can you regulate my watch? And I was like, probably. I didn't actually know whether I could do it or not, but I just took a shot at it, and sure enough, I was able to regulate the watch. And I got the watches, and I was like, these are pieces of crap. So they were nice watches, but had never had any care for them done for them, right? So that fit perfectly in place, that wheel over the mainspring. And so I was quite pleased as I dug into it. So I cleaned the watch and regulated it, and then I got deeper and deeper in how to fix things and how to make things, and eventually I got kind of pissed off at buying balance staffs. I was like, why do I complete having to buy balance staffs, right? Get a bench key out, so I got the watch back together again. So what I'm going to do here is, I could put the stem back in, but I wonder if I can wind it. I might not be able to wind it this way. What I'll do, I'll case it, and then I'll wind it, because it's not going to take me very long to case the watch here. So I got to undo this little screw here that I took apart last time. Just unscrew it just a bit, then grab the stem, and then put the stem inside the watch like this. And if I have that screw up high enough, which I don't think I do, the stem should just roll right in. We just raise that up just a bit more. Another thing I should never do is touch the balance as this thing is moving. So yeah, there we go. So the stem is kind of going in right now. We just grab this here and work it in, and I don't think that it's got to go. Oh, I don't want to be a retard here, so let me case the thing first. So, and I think it goes like this. You want to line it up with the stem when you case it, right? So you put the case back on like that. You've got to be able to do this and then put the stem in, which helps you line it up properly. So basically, it's not lined up properly right now. So if I move it over, and if anyone's got any hints on how to do this better, I'll take them. There we go. And then I know, there we go. So it's all the way in now. So that's all the way in. So all I have to do now, so I'm recasing it, to zoom in a bit, is if I tighten this screw right here, like so, it should be in. There we go. So that's in setting mode, and I just pulled it out just a bit and then tighten it some more. Hopefully you can see that on the video. I'm trying to make good videos here, but there we go. So that's tightened now, and then I'm just going to put these case screws back in here really carefully. I didn't even grab one. It's working way too fast. I'm working faster than I'm able to work. I think this was one of them was a blued screw and the other one wasn't, so I'm not sure which was which. But if they don't fit properly, I'll know it's right away. So just tighten that up. Yeah, that fits nicely. And just tighten it just a bit more. There we go. I'm going to grab the other one. And what happens when you tighten these is they kind of find their place. This is a different screw than the other one, so obviously there's been work done on this watch before. And somebody had replaced the screws on it. So this one here is like one of these blued screws. And I think that it needs to grab the thread here, so could have a problem here because it needs to go up a bit. So I think I've got to push it from the other side, so just bear with me for a second as I do that. I won't be able to put this in place properly unless I do that. Like that, and then I got to push this up and maybe loosen the other screw. So that's up more now. I'm going to back up the video a bit, or zoom out a bit on the video. And now that I have it out a bit, I should be able to tighten this screw down here. Right, and again, I'm just trying to show you how it's done by moving my hands around and all kinds of crap. I think this screw went on the other side, if my memory serves me correctly. But anyway, I got it in, so there we go. So the screws are both in. I'd like to have this screw over here because the case, if it moves, it'll go down on this side because of the weight, not on this side. But usually, when you have the case itself on, the rim holds it in place. So when you're casing it, when you put this down, then this pushes on the face and holds everything in place. It might not matter. So let me just wind this. Just zoom out again a bit. And I'm going to wind this, and if it slips, it slips. So let's see what happens here. This chain is a real pain in the ass. So it's I think it's wrong anyway. It's connected the wrong way. Like this should be on this side, I think, and not on the other side. But it came with the watch, so I just left it like that. So if I push this in like that, then I'm able to wind the watch. So let me just give it a couple turns here. I'm just seeing if it slips again. Yeah, it did. It went click. It slipped. So I gotta take that apart again because it's not a lot of turns before it slips. There, you can hear that click. So that's the slipping. So what's happening, I'm gonna draw this for you to show you. So I have to take this out now, and like I said before, what I can do, it's running nicely, but it does slip, so you can't put power on it, right? So what I can do, I'll draw this up just quickly on a piece of sticky whitey paper or whatever, yellow sticky pad, and show you what's going on. Get a pen here. And then I can do the rest of this later. So what's happening here is you've got your arbor here in the center, like that, and this spring is going around like this, and I'll exaggerate it. There's your center arbor here. Right, I'll just make that solid here. Solid. And your spring is going around like this, and of course it bunches up, but I won't show you that. And then at this part here, the barrel, I'll just exaggerate this again. So the barrel is like this on the inside, right? And this is totally exaggerated, okay? And there's the teeth of the barrel going around like that, right? There's some teeth. That's the best teeth I can draw today. Teeth of the barrel, teeth of the barrel, teeth of the barrel, teeth of the barrel. It's pretty shitty teeth. And here's a hook on the inside of the barrel. So this is punched out, this hook, right? So when this spring comes along here, it's got a catch. It basically has a piece of metal that catches on this side, and this again, it's double exaggerated. And then it went along a little bit further, and then it's attached to the spring like that, and again, exaggerated. And so when this pulls, actually, I got it backwards, so pardon me, I got the thing backwards. It's actually pulling the other way, because this is pulling the spring going this way, right, with this. It pulls the spring this way. So the pull, the force vector, what do you want to call it here, is this way. So it goes this way, the arrows are this way and then this way, like that. So it's in fact pulling this way. So this part here, just forget all this crap I drew. There's a part of the barrel that's punched out, and a little piece of metal sticks out like this, and this thing here folds underneath that piece of metal, like so, like that. So if I draw that again, which I think I will because it was like a shitty drawing, there's the arbor, and then the spring goes around in a circle like that, and then at some point in time it gets to the point where it needs to come back again. Sometimes you see the springs are folded over like that, and then they come back like this, and then they're either fold. I have the old Walthams and stuff, sometimes a fold over point, and then right here is a notch in the barrel that's basically punched out. The barrel goes around like that, right? And the notch is punched out, so there's a hole there, and it punches this metal back, right? So that in fact, when the spring, let me zoom in here, when the spring pulls in this direction here, right, it catches on this notch, right, and then when you wind this up, it holds it in place, so you have no issue with this, with the notch, right? So as you wind the watch up, this stays where it's supposed to be, right? If this, like in the case of this movement here, what's happening is that the pressure from the wind, this spring there's got to be either a problem with this notch going down, or this is rounded too much. The end here is rounded too much, and it's causing it to slip over the notch, and then it just goes all the way around again and stops right here, stops at this point in time. Then I'm able to wind it a few turns, and then it slips again, right? And it's not meant to slip. So I have to take the watch apart again, and what I typically do is I can file the end of this to make it, I can file the end of that notch to make it so it sticks on that. So if you zoomed in on this part here, you would see the piece of metal like this, right? That's the piece of metal, and there's the notch like this, like that. And I can take this piece of metal and I can file the end off it like this, so get rid of this part here, and that way it's kind of sharp, so when it hits this part it slides into the groove, right? And that'll prevent it from getting unhooked from the mainspring here. So that is my plan to do that. I'm not going to do that right now in the video, but that's what I'll do, and that should hold this mainspring in place. So anyway, that's how to fix a mainspring problem, and again, it's filing it down and stuff. That should fix it without an issue, because it's slipping over the top of this notch, and the notch is low enough, so this is just slipping over the top, because maybe this is rounded or something, and the notch is just slightly below it, so it's going bang, like that, and it's spinning around that way. Anyway, that's my video. It's 38 minutes long. Hope you enjoy it. This is as good as I can do today. It's a Longines pocket watch, so it needs some work. Thanks a lot.